Today, we are on page 137, chapter on wisdom. At the very beginning, I explained that bodhicitta we talk about two kinds of bodhicittas, that is, relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta. Relative bodhicitta has been discussed throughout these chapters up to here. We all talk about relative bodhicitta. Now today we come to this absolute bodhicitta. Absolute bodhicitta is, in fact, the realization of emptiness. Realization of emptiness is the direct antidote to our ignorance. In order this absolute bodhicitta to generate, it is said that one must practice on relative bodhicitta. By practicing on relative bodhicitta, we come to this absolute bodhicitta. We come to realize this absolute bodhicitta. These relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta, even though we talk in different ways, but in fact, these two complement to each other. In order to generate this absolute bodhicitta, to attain this realization of emptiness, one must practice relative bodhicitta. In order to effectively practice this relative bodhicitta, one must have some level of understanding of emptiness. In fact, the real absolute bodhicitta is the result of understanding or realization of emptiness. So these two, even though we talk about in different categories, goes hand in hand. So on this chapter, wisdom chapter, discussing on this chapter, we will be discussing on absolute bodhicitta, the realization of emptiness. Okay? Now, wisdom chapter on wisdom. Why call wisdom? Is that understanding and realization of emptiness is the wisdom. First stanza, here I read. All these branches of the doctrine the enlightened sage expounded for the sake of wisdom. So here, all these branches of the doctrine referring to all the different aspects of practice we talk about. Particularly here referring to all 5 other perfections. Perfection of generosity, perfections of disciplines, that which we talk about in our first chapter, second chapter, and third chapter. And from fourth chapter, we talk about patience, diligence, and all this. Basically, all other 5 perfections are practiced and are taught because we have to come to this realization of wisdom. For the sake of wisdom, all other chapters are explained. Understanding and practicing these 5 perfections will result in wisdom, understanding of this absolute bodhicitta. Therefore, you read, there must be cultivated this wisdom who wish to have an end of sufferings. Of course, ultimately speaking, in order to end sufferings, one must realize emptiness. Without understanding of emptiness, one cannot eliminate sufferings. Okay. So that stanza talked about the importance of this chapter on wisdom. Okay. Now this chapter on wisdom, how we first have to do is the overview of this chapter, outlines of this chapter. In order to do this again, according to Patul Rinpoche, this chapter on wisdom is divided into 4 categories. Okay? First, wisdom established by means of view. All has to do with wisdom. So that's the first category. With many other subcategories we are going to discuss. Wisdom established by means of the view. Okay? Second, wisdom experienced by means of meditations. Third, misconceptions dispelled through reasoning. Reasoning is very important part of the study, especially analytical meditations. The reasoning really illuminate our minds that otherwise we let all unquestions. We don't raise the questions, just believe in things. Reasoning is this analytical approach, which plays an important role understanding of emptiness. Last one, fourth, the benefit of realizing emptiness. This chapter ends with that. Okay. Now, the first category, wisdom established by means of the view. In these, there are three subcategories. Okay. First is the outline of the two truths. Here, talking about wisdom has to do with understanding of nature of phenomena. That understanding of reality is the wisdom. And actualizing that is the practice. So, in order to understand the reality of phenomena, we're going to talk about in terms of two truths. And then, second, it gives some clarification. We say, which translated in English, refutation of objections with regard to the two truths. Here, as we explain the reality in terms of two truths, there are many objections now. So, here, the approach is to refute those objections. Different, objections are, raised and refutations, step by step. And the third category in this is the proofs. Basically, the proof of the supremacy of Mahayana school, Mahayana teachings. There are some patches in the lower school who accuse Mahayana teaching as not authentic Buddha's teaching. So there's some explanation for it. Basically establishing the understanding which make you realize that Mahayana teachings are in fact Buddha's teachings. This has to do with within Buddhist schools. I'm not sure how big relevance it is for us. Okay. Now, talking about two truths. Talking about two truths, in this, again, Batu Rinpoche talks about distinguishing the two truths, definition of the two truths, concerning those who establish the two truths. Anyway, now, on stanza second, first distinguishing the two truths. Relative and ultimate. These, the two truths, are declared to be. Second definition of the two truths. It reads, the ultimate is not within the reach of intellect, for intellect is said to be the relative truth. Okay, now before we go further, let me first briefly explain you the two truths. Two truths are what we're going to study in this chapter. But first, to give you an overview, it's important to have some overview, some understanding of the two truths. Why the two truths? Two truths are explained in order to understand the reality of phenomena. That's it. What is reality? Reality, from this school's point of view, in two truths. Now, what is then relative truth and what is ultimate truth, absolute truth? Yeah? Relative truth is what we see. For instance, you can see my face, this computer, this body, all these phenomena, everything. One can see, one can hear. Everything is a relative truth. That which we do not caution, just as they are. Now, absolute truth. Absolute truth, we are referring not other than what we are seeing, what we are hearing, this relative truth itself, its true nature is ultimate truth. That is, in another word, empty nature. Everything that appears to us, this appearance aspect, is relative truth. This appearance aspect, while they are appearing, while we are seeing things, they are in fact empty, in essence, empty. That empty is absolute truth. So can we really differentiate, put these two apart? Not at all. These two truths are union. Where there's absolute truth, there's relative truth. Where there's a relative truth, there's absolute truth. Therefore, Buddha said, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. They are all union. Now, teaching about these two truths is about understanding of reality. Everything is explained in terms of two truths. Relative truth, how is explained? These appearing phenomena, you're seeing me and all hearing these sounds, everything, how Buddha taught, as we call 8 similes of illusions. Basically 8 different kinds of examples, right? They're all like mirage. Mirage is there appearing. When you actually get really close to it, mirage is nowhere to be found. Likewise, everything, appearing phenomena, when you really look into them, try to find an essence. What is it? Really look into them. The further you look, the more you become emptiness, empty essence. So Buddha taught, like mirage, like magical illusions, like a dream. That's one of the most commonly used example. Everything is like a dream. In dream, we hear things, we experience, we see, we meet our friends, talk. Everything happens, but everything happens in the dream. Nothing happens at the same time. Empty. Likewise, Buddha gave example like echo, apparitions, and all these things, reflections, all these different kinds of examples Buddha gave. In order for us to understand this relative truth, this appearing phenomena, form, sound, taste, everything is like that. All magic, illusions, dream-like nature, mirage-like nature. That's all relative truth is how they explain. Absolute truth. Now, this absolute truth, empty nature of all phenomena. That empty nature of all phenomena, Buddha said, Kangi Tejin Dewa Jungapa Mepa, Chemepa, Chepa Mepa, Tamepa, Wa Mepa, Domepa, Tadi Temi, Tunji, Jubanyishi, Shidumba, Zobi Sanji, Panamchi, Tamatela, Chancellor, which means the empty essence of all phenomena is beyond coming and going, beyond being born and cease, beyond one, beyond many, beyond existence, beyond non-existence. So, the absolute nature, the characteristics, if there is characteristics, that's how we talk about. At the same time, these characteristics we talk about, emptiness, is somehow meant to give you a stepping stone, so to speak, thinking on these things beyond existence, non-existence, beyond one or many, beyond coming and going. When you think about those, reflect on those, it's meant to give you some kind of break to your mind and have a glimpse of true nature. Beyond that, the real absolute truth, as it says here, that absolute, ultimate truth is beyond our intellect. That which can grasp our relative truth. The true nature is beyond our intellect. Okay? So, therefore, when Buddha, after attaining enlightenment, he really, at the beginning, wasn't going to teach Dharma. When he was asked to teach Dharma, he said, which means, I found this beyond elaborations, great peace, and uncompound. This empty essence, if I teach, no one would understand it. As Buddha said, when he started teachings, he continued on that absolute nature is beyond expressions, beyond these ordinary thoughts. This absolute nature is something to be realized through meditations. that which is beyond existence and non-existence, how can one really talk about it? Everything we talk about has to do with existence or non-existence, isn't it? This language we use is very dualistic, which cannot deliver the explanation of this ultimate truth. So, ultimate truth, absolute bodhicitta, is therefore something must be realized through these practices and through the practice, especially of relative bodhicitta. When one truly practices giving up this egocentric view and caring to all sentient beings with this open heart, and there's this practice that brings the understanding of absolute nature. So, here in this wisdom chapter, we're going to talk about step by step how this absolute bodhicitta, the absolute truth, we realize step by step, the practice. Okay? Oh, yeah. So anyway, I want to emphasize the nature of all phenomena, always explained in terms of these two truths. The relative truth, whatever appearing, the appearances of phenomena, relative truth. That appearance phenomena, in essence, empty in nature. That is absolute truth. These two appearances is emptiness. Emptiness is appearances. Form and emptiness. Emptiness is form, always together. Can never separate it. But sentient beings, with their ignorance, why they wander in samsara is because sentient beings do not recognize the appearance as emptiness. The union is not recognized. The appearing phenomena, they grasp the appearance phenomena as truly existent out there, not knowing. Their true nature is empty. From that misunderstanding, and then even this ego, I kind of thing, my, this ego clinging mind, from that then whole samsara manifests. So, true understanding of reality is understanding of this relative truth and absolute truth. And when one truly understands that absolute truth, or even when one have a glimpse of this absolute truth, then there comes a genuine, in fact, the most profound compassion to all beings who are remaining absolutely ignorant of this absolute truth. And with so much ego clinging, with so much ignorance, endlessly, aimlessly wandering in this infinite ocean of samsara. So, understanding of absolute truth, the absolute bodhicitta, is the very, very important practice. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, first here, stanza 3. I'll be brief, but we have to explain this. Seems okay. Okay, so so from this stanza, we're talking about different people who basically perceive the phenomena, not in this way, two-tooth way, but how they perceive phenomena. different beings, okay, should say. In the light of this, within the wall, two kinds of people are observed: those with yogic insight and the common run of people. Okay, here we're talking about Shantideva is referring to these different schools of Buddhism now. Before we talk about that, here first talk about Shantideva, talk about two kinds of people are observed. First, common run of people, regular people, more of a non-Buddhist, okay, people. Non-Buddhist people, just ordinary people, it's a view of, the world. And non-Buddhists, indoctrinated, those who practice. In the detailed explanation of this stanza, talks about all non-Buddhist practitioners viewing these phenomena either in terms of eternalism or nihilism, having the view of eternalism, something like the gods or creator out there existing eternally, like that. A nihilistic view, like those who do not view or do not have a view, do not believe in anything beyond what they see. So these kind of people, these are all common run of people. Now those with yogic insight, here Shantideva referring to our Buddhist schools. Now, when we talk about different Buddhist schools, we talk about 4 distinct schools of tenets. 4 kinds of schools. Shravakayana. First, Shravakayana, within Shravakayana, there are a school of Vaivashika school. And then Sautantika school. And then these 2 are basically Shravakayana, so-called Hinayana, or Theravadan school. Theravadan school. Those who emphasize the Buddha's teaching that Buddha gave in the first turning the wheel of Dharma. Okay? And then we have so-called Chittamatra school, or known as mind-only school, Mahayana now, Mahayana school, Chittamatra, Mahayana school, mind-only school, and then Madhyamaka school. There are the 4 schools of tenets. Each have different, doctrines. So, what we got here, 4 distinct school of tenets: Vaivashika, Sautantika, Chittamatra, and Madhyamaka. So these are long story. I don't think we have time to go through them, but basically, the lower yanas. What lower yana? Why they are called lower yana is because they do not talk about very much emptiness. They do not talk about very much bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta, absolute bodhicitta. So they are lower vehicles. Even though, based on the first running of the Buddha Dharma, like 4 thoughts. Understanding of the truth of suffering, abandoning the truth of cause of sufferings, actualizing the truth of cessation of suffering, and embarking on the path that lead to the cessation of suffering. My Hinayana school, they are in their own way very profound, but still simply because they don't talk about emptiness, simply because they don't talk about very much bodhicitta, they are lower vehicles. To put it in a very nutshell, that's very much boils down to that. Okay. Then Mahayana school, Chitra Mantra, mind only school, and Madhyamaka. And within these two, Madhyamaka schools are the better ones in Mahayana. Because Chitra Mantra school, they accept such the existence of self-knowing, self-illuminating mind, which is the source of everything. Some kind of existence, that kind of mind, self-knowing, self-illuminating, devoid of subject and object. So anyway, there are different ways of explaining this, but basically accepting that existence, such mind existence. So Madhyamaka school is better. Because Madhyamaka schools, when they caution again that existence self-knowing consciousness, that self-knowing consciousness is also empty. Nothing exists out there. It's not empty. Everything is empty. Therefore, Madhyamaka school is better. Within Madhyamaka school, then we have Uma Rangjupa, Uma Tanjurwa, we say, Swatantika Madhyamaka school, Swatantika Madhyamaka school, and Prasangika Madhyamaka schools. So all these things, that's what monks study and master for years and years, And for me, even now when I read this, so exciting and really gives you profound glimpse of emptiness. This Madhyamaka's philosophy is so vast and so profound, of course. Anyway, within this Madhyamaka philosophy, then, as I just explained, these 2 truths are established. Okay? Madhyamaka philosophy explains the reality of phenomena in these 2 truths. Okay. Then, within this Madhyamaka philosophy, as I said, Swatantika Madhyamaka philosophy and Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophy. What are their differences? Their difference not much, but still, Swatantika Madhyamaka philosophy establish step by step emptiness, and there's some kind of acceptance of emptiness, objecting something that is existent, and establishing that is emptiness. So Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophy comes up and say, Uma Tanjurwa, we say, you, the Swatantrika Madhyamaka philosophers, did wonderful things by establishing all phenomena as empty. That's what it is. But still, you might have some kind of conceptions of emptiness. It's remaining there. Some kind of things to be established. If there is such thing, this is still remaining, conceptualizing everything as empty. That concept, that accepting this again, this settled concept is again to the ultimate realization. This settled concept is again an obstacle. So, in return, Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophers do not posit any acceptance, simply, eliminating all notions, all concept free, not conception establish the concept of emptiness, but concept free. So, of course, there are many different ways to explain this differentiation, but to come down to that point. Okay. So, of course, the higher Buddhist tenets, like Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophy, is considered the most profound teachings of the Buddha. That I just explained about relative truth and ultimate truth is from according to the Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophy. Actually, both Prasangika and Swatantrika Madhyamaka philosophy's view, but mainly this that here chapter on wisdom is basically mainly is the Prasangika Madhyamaka, according to Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophy. Here, the author Shantideva is considered Prasangika Madhyamaka philosopher. For example, Shanta Rakshita and all other Panditas consider Swatantrika Madhyamaka philosophers. This Shantideva, is Prasangika Madhyamaka philosopher. So, from Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophy's point of view. Okay, now in this regard, the view of ordinary folk are undermined by yogis who themselves are in the world within whose rank the lower in the degrees of insight are confuted by the higher by means of example that the yogis and the worldly both accept. Basically, the higher the tenets, those higher teachings refute, the lower teachings, lower tenets teachings. When they put into reasoning, so lower tenets kind of established doctrines cannot stand. So ultimately, who talk about emptiness wins. The reason is everything is empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form. That ultimate teachings. Okay, that's it. And then, second aspect, refutation of the objections with regards to the true truth. These refutations, we're talking, even though we talk about different schools, but here we have to think about, dispelling our own kind of doubt, when we hear the emptiness, we have all this kind of doubt too, And the main purpose of this refutation of objections has to do with clarifying our own understanding, our own doubts. Okay? First, the refutation from the ordinary people, And for the sake of the result, analysis is left aside. When the ordinary folks perceive phenomena, they look on them as real, not illusory. That's what they do, ordinary people. This then is the subject of debate, where ordinary and yogis differs. Ordinary people look out there, everything as real. They do not recognize their true nature is empty, and the appearance relative to it as an illusory nature. No, nothing like that. So that's what we're going to talk about, Shantideva was saying. We're not talking about appearances itself, but how they kind of view appearances as a real, not recognizing their true nature. That's what we are debating. Okay. Okay. Here I won't go step by step, but from this stanza 6 through stanza 15 is the refutation of objections, objections that are raised by Sharavakayanas, law-makers yanas. Okay. Now, in order to understand this, you have to have also this kind of roughly understanding of what law vehicles talk about. What law vehicles talk about is that, as I just said, they do not talk about emptiness. That's the main thing. Not only that, do not talk about emptiness, they talk about something existent out there, externally existent. So-called partless particles in reality. Partless particles as an absolute truth. And from that, partless particles, all the grosser levels came into existence. Also, that's for the material phenomena. Immaterial mind phenomena, mental phenomena, they talk about Shipa Kichi Chame, which means indivisible moment of consciousness. This grosser level of consciousness also comes from this indivisible moment of consciousness. From this, all grosser level of consciousness came into existence. But they all accept that out there, not empty. Okay, that's in a nutshell, like that. So from their point of view, now look at the Mahayana, this Prasangika Madhyamaka philosophers' teachings. Everything is empty. They would think that doesn't sound right. Everything is empty. No, not everything is empty. Okay, here in this Sharavaka said that, well, Buddha taught Dharma, and when Buddha taught Four Noble Truths, for instance, Buddha taught aggregates, elements, and all these things. Buddha didn't talk about emptiness. Here, let me make some clarity. Sharavaka, lower vehicles, they do not accept the teaching that Buddha gave in the second turning the wheel of Dharma and third turning the wheel of Dharma. That's not a really thing. So here comes, Shantideva talking about the authenticating the Mahayana schools. So they are saying here, Buddha taught those things, not emptiness. Buddha taught those aggregates and elements and sources, and all these things are momentary, impermanent by nature. That Buddha taught, but not emptiness. So here Shantideva's answer is that it is not that Buddha taught, not that Buddha did not teach the emptiness, Buddha taught. People just do not, when they receive Buddha's teaching, they do not really receive the ultimate teachings of the Buddha. And you, Sharavakayana, all accept the teachings on the more of a, we call provisional meanings, not really ultimate meaning of the teachings. Except that, did Buddha teach? What Buddha taught is in fact the real meaning of Buddha's teachings. All these momentary, impermanent nature of all things, actually is the teaching on emptiness. And the second aspect here, they're asking the question is, if on a relative truth, everything is like illusory nature, mirage, then how can one actually accumulate merit by making offerings to the Buddhas? If everything is illusory nature, mirage-like nature. So Shantideva's answer to this is, well, everything is mirage-like. Mirage-like, you make mirage-like offering, and you make mirage-like merit, and everything is functioned within that. There's nothing that's not like, on a relative level, making offering. Everything is like mirage. It's like illusions. Everything is. But within that illusion nature, everything works. There are Buddhas on a relative level, illusion-like, mirage-like. When you really examine where Buddha is, when you really examine where the merit is, in fact, then the reasoning is done. You cannot really find a Buddha out there. You cannot find a really, merit out there too. All works on a relative levels. Everything is interdependently arising, by the way. Again, Madhyamaka philosophy says everything is interdependently arising. Likewise, here says, well, then how next life, afterlife comes? Here Shantideva again saying, next life is there as long as the cause of, next life. This mental consciousness that goes to continue their next life. But that doesn't mean anything that they are not illusory nature or phenomena. They are still illusory nature. In your dream, you may dream like a horse which do not have horn, or like ox which has horns. This having horns and having no horns is different. It's there in your dreaming, but in your dreaming or a dream, there's no difference. Likewise, it goes to next life, experience of samsara, infallible law of nature. Yes, there is, as long as the cause and conditions are gathered, this phenomena will continue. That doesn't at all mean something existent out there. No, everything is empty. On a relative level, illusory nature, or like mirage, dream-like phenomena, just continues. Those are the For us, these teachings are dispelling, clarifying our own doubt. Now, from stanza this 15 through stanza 29 is the refutation of objections raised by Chitra Mantra schools, mind-only schools. Okay. Okay, now mind-only schools, what they talk about. Mind-only school says that all appearing phenomena, now Mahayana school, this Mahayana school, right? All appearing phenomena are our own mind's manifestations. Nothing exists out there. This is very profound, actually very profound tenets, teachings in mind-only school. Everything we see is mind's manifestation. Bringing the example of a dream. When you dream, when you sleep, you dream. In your dream, or you see this and that. Likewise, in our past lifetimes, mental habit, all the habitual patterns, habits that we store in our mind stream, all, Kunji we call, the ground of all consciousness. Mind-only school accepts this ground of all consciousness in which everything is stored, all the habits. And in time, those habits just comes out. Beautiful example is like, you imagine tonight, you will dream like you are here in this room or you are watching on computer. And I'm talking about Chitra Mantra schools, tenets, their doctrine, that everything is like a dream, that which is stored in our mind stream, alaya consciousness now, coming out. You may dream like that in tonight. Likewise, all our experience are come manifestation from this manifesting from this ground of all consciousness. In this ground of consciousness, we have store our habits from infinite lifetimes habits. Now simply manifesting those. So Chitra Mantra school do not accept any object out there existing, by the way. There's no object out existing. No, absolutely no existing. As I said, only problem they have is the accepting the existence of this self-knowing, illuminating, profound consciousness that they are existing. So that is the problem. So on this stanza 15, the last two lines say it reads like, if even that which is deceived does not exist, what is it, you will ask, that sees illusions? So basically here, now objection raised by Chitra Mantra in school. Objections are raised because Madhyamaka philosopher says here, Shantideva is saying here, nothing exists. Nothing exists. Even Chitra Mantra school, what you talk about, this sub-knowing consciousness, is do not exist. So here he's saying, if even that do not exist, then how outer phenomena, how the phenomena can be perceived, if these even do not exist? And Shantideva's answer to this is simply, well, just things happen. Not really, as you agree that outer phenomena do not exist, for you, outer phenomena do not exist, and how can you actually see this outer phenomena with this self-knowing consciousness? Like as you accept outer phenomena do not exist, you must accept that self-knowing also do not exist. So here again, if they say, if the Chitta Mantra school say that, well, but outer phenomena as the mind's manifestations can be perceived by mind, that all appearances as a mind's manifestations, and that mind's manifestations perceived by this mind. If that's the case, then, again, the Buddha said, mind cannot perceive mind. And that Buddha taught. So in Chitta Mantra school, you are basically saying mind can perceive mind. Buddha already said in Mahayana schools, mind cannot perceive mind like it is here. But if the mirage is the mind itself, what is then perceived by what? The guardians of the world, Buddha himself said that mind cannot be seen by mind. In just the same way, he said that sword's edge cannot cut the sword. But if you say, like the flame that perfectly illuminates itself, the flame in fact can never light itself. And why? Because the darkness never dims it. So basically, talking back and forth between these two Mahayana schools, what here Madhyamaka philosophers are trying to achieve is that Chitta Mantra school, you are great, but still accepting the existence of self-knowing consciousness. You must get over with that. Here on the stanza 25, here it is, it is not indeed our purpose to disprove experience of light or sound or knowing or other things. Our aim here, Madhyamaka philosopher, is here to undermine the cause of sorrow. The cause of sorrow is the thought that such phenomena have true existence. As long as you have a thought phenomena have a true existence, sorrow will continue. The whole our purpose of discussion is to eliminating sorrow. In order to eliminate sorrow, we must eliminate the thought, the grasping as a true existence. Okay. Okay. It goes until stanza 29. Oh. Now from stanza 30th, 30 through 34 is the refutation of objections on the path, okay? On the path of emptiness, realization of emptiness, that path. Okay. Now in general, now Shantideva is saying is that realization of emptiness is the path. This is the way to go. There's no other ways. You lower vehicles do not talk about this and that different things. the real thing on the path is the realization of emptiness. Now here it says, even if we know that all is like illusions, how, you ask, will this dispel afflictive passions? Magicians may indeed themselves desire the mirage woman that themselves create. Even though you recognize on the relative truth, everything is like mirage, again, there might be something, their desire may continue. Here is, the reason is that they have not rid themselves of habits of desiring objects of perceptions. And when they gaze upon such things, their aptitude for emptiness is weak indeed. Here the stanza 32 is very important. By training in the aptitude for emptiness, the habit to perceive real thing will relinquish. By training in the thought, there isn't anything, the view itself will also be abandoned. First, you reflect on the, reflecting on the emptiness. What it does is it does really help to eliminate the grasping mind, thinking that everything is real. That grasping mind can be eliminated by reflecting on emptiness. And lastly, emptiness is not something to be established. That emptiness, understanding of emptiness, also, there isn't anything. This view itself will also be abandoned. Okay, very important. This is stanza 34 is what we repeat all the time. Here the Shantideva talks about the path, the emptiness, path of emptiness. When something and its non-existence both are absent from before the mind, no other options does the latter have. It comes to perfect rest from concept free. So basically, the understanding of emptiness has to do with going beyond the existence and non-existence. If you go both beyond these, existence and non-existence, and what is there that's left behind that I can conceptualize? So basically, the basically eliminating all concept. If there is a concept, then it's still some kind of samsara, some kind of illusion continues. So teaching on emptiness has to do with step by step, basically, getting rid of all concept. Okay. From stanza 35 through stanza 39 is now refutation on the objections with regard to the fruit that is benefit of other beings. Here, the main objection is, while everything is concept-free, are you saying that, whatever, the 3 jewels, make offerings, all are concept-free. Nobody has concept. From lower vehicles debating to the upper vehicles, like Madhyamaka philosophers. So how can we actually accumulate merit? Buddhas do not know us. are you saying the Buddhas do not have concept? They're not, knowing that, or, having the concept that we make offerings? Here Shantideva is saying that Buddhas to whom we make offerings, 3 jewels, all are like a wish-fulfilling jewels. When you make offering to wish-fulfilling jewel, wish-fulfilling trees, when you ask the wish-fulfilling trees, wish-fulfilling jewels, you will be fulfilled, but that it doesn't mean they have such concept to give you the blessings or to not give you the blessings or nothing like that. It's just like all, concept free. Like a wish Buddha, Shikupa Shinta Sajushin Roichi number Namito, which means that it's like a wish fulfilling tree in heavenly realms. As long as you request, as long as you make prayers, there's blessings. That doesn't mean that Buddha, conceptualize you there and happy when you make offering and not happy when you do not make offering, nothing like that. Here it says like Buddha said, when he was asked not to pass nirvana, Buddha said, after I pass into nirvana, you make offerings and respect to my representatives, like Buddha's statue, like as we talk about 3 representatives of the Buddha. And Buddha especially said, these different holy sites you go visit, those will bear the same kind of blessings like me. So it's all saying that, So all these places, all these sacred objects do not have this concept, but blessing is there. Like that, everything happens. Okay. Oh. Timing is not doing well. Okay, now let us just finish this one. From stanza 40 through stanza 51 is the proof of the supremacy of Mahayana, the excellence of Mahayana teachings. And first begin with Mahayana is the Buddha's teachings. Mahayana is Buddha's teachings. So again, as I said, the lower yanas do not accept upper yanas because they only accept the first turning the wheel of Dharma. So here it says, if from lower yana, practitioner says, we are free, you say, through seeing the 4 truths. What use is it to us, this view of emptiness, Mahayana view of emptiness, Not necessary. So here Shantideva was saying, but as the scripture have themselves proclaimed, without this path, there can be no enlightenment. So basically, if you only think that practicing 4 noble truths can kind of eliminate all sufferings, and Mahayana teachings, all this emptiness not necessary, that is not the case. Buddha did say the enlightenment is the result of emptiness. Likewise, you say the Mahayana has no certainty, but how do you substantiate your own tradition, Hinayana? You ask, because it's accepted by both parties. You and I, Mahayana, Hinayana, we both accept these teachings. If you will say, but at the outset, you yourself lack proof. How do you prove that your teaching is the real Buddha's teachings? And that if you say like, Buddha taught these teachings and his students, gather the teachings and now the teaching is here, then our Mahayana teachings also Buddha taught and all the Bodhisattvas later on gather all these. And we are on the same. The reason why you trust in your tradition may likewise be applied to Mahayana. Moreover, if accord between the two parties shows the truth, the Vedas and the rest are also true. So, okay. Basically, if you think that there's certain thing that disagree to Mahayana, in your teaching, some aspect disagree to Mahayana, so that reason alone cannot prove that Mahayana is not authentic, because there are lots of things, teachings that agrees to Mahayana teachings, and like that. In fact, in Hinayana teachings, those some practitioners do lack of ultimate understanding, and they're like Kashyapa and other main disciples of Buddha did talk about, as Hinayana practitioners, they did talk about something that their understanding is not ultimate understanding, Here it is the mind that has not realized voidness, emptiness, may be halted, but will once again arise, just as from a non-perceptual absorption, therefore one must train in emptiness. Basically, what Shantideva is saying is that without realization of emptiness, you cannot eliminate the fundamental cause of sufferings. It's like when you meditate, when you have the absorptions, when you go into the meditative state, but again come back to normal state. So likewise, if you do not have realization of emptiness, your practice will be like that. Okay. And from stanza 52 through stanza 56 is basically now teaching of emptiness is the real antidote to all obscurations. Okay. How one can truly eliminate the obscurations, how one can really, abandon all these delusions. One must practice on emptiness. By practicing on emptiness, one can eliminate the delusions. So therefore, Shantideva is saying that you all Hinayana practitioners must accept that teachings on emptiness in Mahayana as the authentic teachings, because these teachings do eliminate all the sufferings, all the misunderstandings, And there's a stories that when Buddha was teaching about emptiness, some Hinayana practitioners really afraid they try to cover their ears or they escape, or like that kind of stories. So this stories has to do with these teachings, As Shantideva was saying, whatever is the source of suffering, let that be the object of our fears. But emptiness will allay our every grief. How could it be for us a thing of dread? If such a thing as I exists indeed, then terror, granted, will torment it. But since no self or I exists at all, what is there left for fear or terrify? See, understanding of emptiness is in fact what brings the victory, not sufferings. Terrifying is not the case here. One should not terrify. One should accept the teaching, main subject of Mahayana. The emptiness must be accepted. Okay. That complete the wisdom established by means of the view. Now from stanza 57, it's a wisdom experienced by means of meditations. I'll briefly do this because now we have to finish this whole text next week. So let's go further a little bit. From here is wisdom experienced by means of meditations. Okay. In this, there are two things. Meditation on the absence of self in individuals. And second, meditation on the absence of self in phenomena. Two meditations. Let us finish this two today. Okay. Meditation on the absence of self in individual. First is on the self, understanding, meditating on the absence of self. Now, meditating on the self, absence of self, there are two. Naturally, that ordinary people have the ignorance of self, grasping self. Meditate on that. And then the self that is imputed, that is indoctrinated. So when you are in certain doctrine, certain religion, so you come up this idea of, big self. So eliminating. There are two kinds of selves. First, ordinary self. First, ordinary self that sentient beings grasp on is basically on this, aggregates, 5 aggregates on this body, referring on this body, where we actually grasp on. We simply grasp on this, based on this body, and then I, something existence. Simple, isn't it? And here Shantideva now goes, the teeth, the hair, the nail are not the I. So reflecting on each part of the body. Where is this I that one grasps on, in fact? No exists. Ordinary self is easy to understand. Non-existence of it, So, this body, this head is not I. There's no self. There's different parts. Any parts of body, there's no self. Grasping on self is some kind of just illusions. Okay. Now from stanza 60 to 69 is imputed self. So we talk about non-Buddhist school, Samchaya school in India and Nyayitaka schools in India. They talk about some kind of self that is permanent, self that is consciousness, or self that is non-consciousness. Not all kinds of selves they talk about in those days, I guess, and trying to establish that. And here Shantideva saying that no, self-consciousness, self as consciousness, permanent, do not exist. If such is there, then if the hearing consciousness is permanent, or the self is there, it follows that it's hearing at all time. And if there's no object, what does it cognize? Basically, all these things, if there's such things as permanent self, that will not happen at all. Okay. From stanza 70 through stanza 77, 70 through 77 is again refutations of the objections they oppose. If self does not exist, you say, there's no link connecting actions with the result. If then the deed is done, the doer is no more. Who is there to reap the karmic fruits? All these things we have ideas. If there's no self, then what happens to my karma? Good karma or bad karma? Here, basically, Shantideva's answer is that yes, when you accumulate karma, you will experience no one else. But that doesn't mean there is a self. Just because interdependently arising phenomena, the law of karma exists. There's no self is there, but your consciousness continues from this life to the next. That consciousness, settled level consciousness continue. On that settled level consciousness, you all experience these things. It doesn't mean that there's such self existing there. Because there's no self-existence, everything is empty, in fact. Therefore, we can accumulate karma. Therefore, we can experience. Therefore, we can change everything because of emptiness, It doesn't mean that there's such self exists, existing. Okay, the last one. Meditation on the absence of self in phenomena. That is from stanza 78 through okay, first now this meditation on the absence of self in phenomena is basically understanding of emptiness and meditating on it. These are called 4 practice of mindfulness, very important one. Because when we talk about 5 paths and 10 stages, among 5 paths, the first path is path of accumulations. Path of accumulation has 3 levels. The first level is the small path of accumulation on the first level, and the small path of accumulation on the beginning stages of the path of accumulations. The practitioners, Mahayana practitioners, basically all Buddhist practitioners, but here from Mahayana point of view, right? When they practice, this 4 mindfulness practice is done. So from here, stanza 78 through stanza 78 through 87 is the close mindfulness of the body. Close mindfulness of the body. Basically, what Shantideva and here Mahayana point of view is understanding of emptiness. There's no I, there's no soul. And there's no body. Body is there. Here we are not talking about no body. Body is not existing there. Inherently kind of there, Everything on a relative level, interdependently arise, everything. But when you look into it, you cannot find the true existence in the body. So first, close mindfulness of the body here. Close mindfulness of the body is now when practitioner sits and meditate. And he knows this body is the source of everything. On this body, based on this body, attachment. Based on this body, everything happens in samsara. So the practitioner, investigate what is really body? What is body? What we call the body is not feet or shins. The body likewise is not thighs. Basically, nothing. This back, this hand, nothing is body. If hand, is body, then if hand is removed, body should be removed. But hand is not body. When you think about, any part of the body, when you think about which part is body, body cannot be found. In the stanza 58, likewise, since it's a group of finger, the hand itself does not exist as such. And so it is with the finger made of joints, and joints themselves consist of many parts. When you say hand, what do you mean? There's a finger, there's these things. This finger is not hand, this palm is not hand, this skin is not hand. Where is the hand now? Body, this head is not body. If head, then nose is not body, eyes is not body, mouth is not body, then where is the head? And like that, when you kind of reflect deeply, where is body? And body, so-called body, existing alone, cannot be found. That's the close, mindfulness of the body. Therefore, it says stanza 87 reads, all forms, therefore, is like a dream, and who will be attached to, and who does investigate, and body in this way has no existence. What, therefore, is male, or what is female, in fact? When you closely look at it, cannot be found. From here is stanza 88 through stanza 101 is the close mindfulness of feeling. Okay? Close mindfulness of feeling. Again, investigate the feeling. Good feeling, pleasure feeling, and suffering feeling. Pleasure feeling, if you look at it, does really pleasure feeling exist? If it exists, then if it exists, then when one feels pain, there should be also feeling pleasure. But obviously, when one feels pain, pleasure is not feeling. So that means feeling itself does not exist. Feeling-wise, just feeling. If it exists, it should be there, right? And then it's not there. Likewise, on the outer phenomena, if something gives you, pleasure, it should be giving you all the time pleasure. If the pleasure really exists out there with outer, stimulus, but no, it do not exist. So therefore, when somebody is not that happy, even though they try to get, from external, kind of pleasure, try to draw, they cannot have the pleasure. So that means pleasure do not exist. Pleasure and pain inherently do not exist. It just happens, If inherently exists, it will be great, but it's not in fact. So, because of emptiness, everything is empty, just arises, interdependently arises. When causes and conditions gather, just arise. That's it. There's not existent out there. The whole point here, what Shantideva is trying to do is everything is empty. Outer phenomena empty, inner feeling empty, this body empty, this feeling empty, everything. Likewise here, stanza 93 talks about when you have the feeling, do the faculty and external object meet and have the feeling come into touch, contact and feeling, or not into contact, just a feeling. So all these things, when you think about, feeling something like, this it slowly disappears. So when you think like this, if feeling do not exist outwardly, exist in, inside one's body, pleasure feeling, pleasure is not existing, and pleasure feeling from outside also not existing out there. So at the same time, who feels the feeling? When you look into it again, the one who feel, you can also you cannot identify that. So when you look at somebody who feels, again, that disappears. So close practice mindfulness of feeling. When you really look into the feeling, do not exist. From stanza 102 through stanza 104 is the close mindfulness of mind. Close mindfulness of mind here. First, the mind, basically the mind. Mind's essence is empty, Here it reads, mind within the sense does not dwell. It has no place in outer things like form, and in between, the mind does not abide, nor out, not in, not elsewhere can mind be found. Just where is mind then, Obviously not in our sense faculty, not in outer objects, not in between. Mind do not find. Just, that's a close mindfulness of mind practice. Likewise, mind do not really, what really gives rise to this mind. If consciousness precedes the cognized object, with regards to what does it arise? If consciousness arises at the same time as its object, again regarding what does it arise? If consciousness comes later than its object, once again, from what does it arise? Basically, when one perceives things, how consciousness arises? Before the object or after the object, or at the same time of the object? How does it arise? When you think about like that, the nature of consciousness, you cannot find. You cannot find the consciousness, how it arises, unborn consciousness. So, all these are practice, meditation on emptiness, Okay, let us end here.